Imagine an NFL organization so fundamentally broken, so seemingly allergic to success, that its coaching decisions didn't just cost them a game, they reportedly cost the league millions of dollars in a single Sunday night. We're talking about a disaster so total that the fans, the loyal, long-suffering Cleveland fans, simply stood up and walked away mid-broadcast. What you're about to hear isn't just about a football game, it's about an economic and cultural collapse triggered by one simple, baffling choice. Get ready, because the raw numbers detailing the Cleveland Browns' self-immolation are unlike anything the modern NFL has ever seen. The Cleveland Browns didn't merely lose Sunday's primetime matchup against the Detroit Lions. According to sources with direct knowledge of broadcast metrics, they obliterated their entire viewership foundation. The numbers tell a devastating story. When Kevin Stefanski announced Joe Flacco starting again, when Shedeur Sanders remained sidelined inexplicably, fans responded definitively. They turned off televisions. They abandoned watch parties. They deleted streaming apps mid-broadcast. This wasn't typical viewer decline. This represented complete audience abandonment. Let's examine these catastrophic figures. Nielsen data reportedly indicates viewership plummeted nearly 40% once starting lineups confirmed. Initial audience numbers approached respectable territory considering Brown's recent struggles. People tuned in expecting Sanders, anticipating his return, craving that electric playmaking ability, transforming ordinary matchups into must-watch television. Instead, Flacco trotted onto the field for the opening possession. Social media erupted immediately. Twitter trending algorithms couldn't process the overwhelming volume. Instagram stories flooded with frustrated reactions. TikTok creators began posting turning off game videos, gaining millions of views instantly. One broadcast executive speaking anonymously summarized the situation perfectly. When Shedeur is not playing, people simply don't care. We're not discussing marginal ratings decline. We're witnessing a complete viewer exodus unprecedented in modern broadcasting. Another network analyst reportedly stated during an internal meeting, the Browns aren't just benching their franchise quarterback, they're benching our entire Sunday night revenue model. Don't misunderstand the implications here. This transcends football decisions toward an economic catastrophe affecting multiple industries simultaneously. The NFL built its empire upon consistent viewership, predictable audience engagement, reliable advertising revenue. Suddenly, Cleveland's quarterback controversy threatens that foundational business model. When a marquee matchup featuring playoff contenders loses 40% of its viewership mid-broadcast, every network executive, every league official, every franchise owner pays attention immediately. Here's where the situation intensifies dramatically. The social media response didn't represent typical fan frustration. This embodied a coordinated viewer rebellion. Hashtags like "Play Shedeur," "Fire Stefanski," and "No Shedeur, No Watch" dominated trending algorithms throughout the entire broadcast window. Fans posted screenshots documenting the exact moment they stopped watching. Some demanded refunds for NFL Sunday ticket subscriptions. Others organized boycotts threatening continued disengagement until Sanders returns. The discourse frequently turned hostile, targeting Stefanski personally, questioning his competence, demanding immediate termination. One viral tweet accumulated 3 million impressions within 2 hours. The Browns without Shedeur are unwatchable. We're done until Neighbor 12 is back on the field. This isn't football, it's organizational malpractice. Another widely circulated post stated, "Just canceled my Game Pass subscription. Not spending money watching Joe Flacco manage games into oblivion while the future sits helplessly on the sidelines." These weren't isolated reactions, but representative samples from an overwhelming sentiment shift. But here's the twist nobody anticipated. Traditional Cleveland supporters, lifelong Browns fans enduring decades of disappointment, joined the exodus. These weren't bandwagon Sanders fans arriving for the spectacle. These represented the core audience foundation, maintaining loyalty through countless quarterback disasters, coaching changes, and front office failures. Their departure signals something far more troubling than typical fan frustration. Sources suggest season ticket holders began listing seats on secondary markets mid-game. Local sports bars reported customers requesting channel changes during the Browns broadcast. This represents unprecedented franchise abandonment. Let's discuss the game itself, because the viewership collapse occurred alongside a competitive disaster. Flacco struggled mightily against Detroit's aggressive defensive scheme. His conservative approach produced predictable results. 3 and outs, field goal attempts, punts pinning the Browns deep in their own territory. Meanwhile, the Lions offense dominated possession, exploited Cleveland's demoralized defense, and built an insurmountable lead before halftime. The contrast couldn't be starker. Detroit's quarterback delivered explosive plays, maintained tempo, and generated highlight reel moments. Flacco managed handoffs, checked down relentlessly, and avoided risks obsessively. By the third quarter, the outcome was determined. The Lions were cruising comfortably. The Browns' offense was sputtering helplessly. Viewership metrics reportedly showed a continuous decline throughout the second half. People weren't switching channels seeking competitive games elsewhere. According to sources, they simply stopped watching football entirely. Netflix viewership spiked, YouTube engagement increased. Streaming platforms reported unusual Sunday evening traffic. The NFL lost audience not merely to competition, but to complete disengagement. Stefanski's post-game press conference became an instant disaster. When questioned about benching Sanders despite the catastrophic performance, his response generated immediate backlash. "Joe gives us the best opportunity to win," Stefanski stated mechanically. Reporters erupted. One journalist asked directly, "Coach, viewership collapsed 40% today. Fans are demanding refunds. How do you respond?" Stefanski deflected awkwardly, citing internal evaluations and competitive decisions. His discomfort was visible, his answers unconvincing, his authority crumbling publicly. ESPN Sunday Night Countdown dedicated an entire segment analyzing the situation's unprecedented nature. Veteran analysts debated whether Stefanski survives the season. One respected commentator stated bluntly, "Kevin's not just losing games, he's costing the league money. That's unforgivable in the modern NFL." Another analyst suggested, front offices tolerate competitive struggles. They don't tolerate ratings disasters affecting revenue sharing, broadcast negotiations, and sponsor commitments. Here's where complications multiply exponentially. League executives reportedly convened emergency discussions Monday morning. According to sources familiar with the conversations, the commissioner's office expressed serious concerns regarding the Browns' handling of the Sanders situation. The NFL operates as an entertainment business first, a competitive sports league second. When individual franchise decisions impact league-wide viewership metrics, intervention becomes inevitable. While the league office maintains public neutrality regarding personnel decisions, private pressure intensifies dramatically. Network partners are particularly concerned. They invested billions securing broadcast rights, anticipating consistent audience engagement. Sanders represented a ratings goldmine, a generational talent attracting demographics typically disengaged from traditional football broadcasts. His benching doesn't merely affect Cleveland's local market, but national viewership patterns, prime-time scheduling decisions, and advertising rate negotiations. Sources claim network executives contacted the league office expressing frustrations, requesting explanations, suggesting potential scheduling adjustments, and minimizing the Browns' national television appearances. Don't overlook the sponsor implications. Major brands invested heavily connecting their products with Sanders' marketability. His absence affects endorsement value, commercial production schedules, and activation strategies targeting younger consumers. One marketing executive speaking confidentially stated, "Shedeur drives engagement metrics we haven't witnessed since the early Mahomes years. When he's benched, our entire campaign strategy requires re-evaluation." Another brand representative reportedly expressed concerns during an internal meeting. "We're paying premium rates for Browns inventory, expecting Sanders' star power. Instead, we're associated with organizational dysfunction and declining viewership." Let's examine locker room dynamics because players recognize the implications immediately. Veterans understand television revenue funds the salary cap, determines contract values, and influences free agency markets. When Browns' decisions crater viewership affecting league-wide economics, players throughout the NFL pay attention. Sources suggest several Cleveland veterans privately question the coaching staff's stubbornness. One offensive lineman allegedly stated during a closed-door meeting, "We're not just losing games, we're losing fans, money, and credibility." How long does this continue? Defensive players reportedly expressed frustrations differently. They recognized Sanders' absence affects offensive production, forcing the defense onto the field excessively, creating impossible competitive situations. One defensive captain supposedly told local reporters, "We prepare all week expecting a competitive game. Instead, the offense can't sustain drives. We're gassed by the third quarter, and the outcomes are predetermined before kickoff." These comments, while diplomatically phrased, reveal an organizational fracture intensifying weekly. Sanders himself maintains remarkable professionalism amid the chaos. Sources close to the quarterback describe his approach as methodical, focused, and unshakable. He arrives early, participates fully in practice, supports teammates publicly, and avoids media controversies. Yet, his demeanor reportedly shifted following Sunday's benching. People familiar with the situation suggest visible frustration emerged during sideline sequences. Television cameras captured moments showing Sanders shaking his head, gesturing toward the field, and discussing situations intensely with offensive coordinators. His body language communicated a message words couldn't express publicly. Behind the scenes, Sanders' representation reportedly is exploring options. While trade requests remain unlikely given his rookie contract status, conversations regarding the franchise's long-term commitment intensify. One agent familiar with the situation stated, "Organizations reveal their priorities through actions. Cleveland is sending a clear message about Shedeur's value. That information guides future decisions." Another source suggested Sanders' camp is monitoring the situation closely, evaluating whether Cleveland provides the optimal developmental environment, competitive opportunity, and organizational stability necessary for his career trajectory. Here's what electrifies this narrative. The consequences multiply beyond the immediate circumstances. Future draft classes observe Cleveland's dysfunction. Elite quarterback prospects potentially avoid the Browns during the pre-draft process. Free agents recognize organizational instability, question front office competence, and demand premium compensation for accepting Cleveland offers. The franchise reputation is damaged irreparably through the mishandling of the Sanders situation. Recovering from this debacle requires years of rebuilding credibility, demonstrating stability, and proving a commitment toward player development. Consider Stefanski's position. It's deteriorating rapidly, his authority undermined publicly, his decisions questioned universally, his future uncertain indefinitely. Sources suggest ownership is conducting a comprehensive evaluation, examining coaching performance, organizational alignment, and competitive outcomes. While public statements express continued support, private conversations reportedly explore contingency planning, potential replacements, and timing considerations. Stefanski understands the professional reality. Coaches survive losing when maintaining fan engagement, organizational stability, and player support. He's losing all three simultaneously. Jimmy Haslam faces an impossible situation. His public support for Sanders is well documented. His frustration with coaching decisions is barely concealed. Yet firing a head coach mid-season creates additional instability, admits organizational failure, and resets the competitive timeline indefinitely. Sources claim Haslam was privately furious following Sunday's viewership disaster. One executive familiar with the ownership mindset stated, "Jimmy's not merely upset about losing, he's concerned about franchise value, fan engagement, and league relationships. This situation affects everything." Front office personnel are navigating treacherous waters. Andrew Berry's reputation is built upon analytical decision-making, talent evaluation, and organizational management. Sanders' benching undermines his draft strategy, questions his quarterback assessment, and reveals a disconnect between personnel decisions and coaching implementation. Sources suggest Berry was advocating strongly for Sanders' return, presenting data supporting the change, emphasizing competitive advantages, and highlighting developmental considerations. His recommendations were reportedly ignored, creating organizational friction intensifying weekly. Let's address the fan perspective because their response drives everything. Cleveland supporters endured unimaginable quarterback disappointment across decades. They witnessed draft busts, free agency disasters, trading mistakes, and developmental failures. Sanders represented hope, excitement, and the genuine possibility of a franchise quarterback. His benching feels like a betrayal, organizational incompetence repeating predictably, another wasted opportunity squandered needlessly. Their frustration is legitimate, their anger justified, and their abandonment understandable. Social media campaigns are organizing rapidly. Fan groups are coordinating viewing boycotts, attendance protests, and merchandise returns. One organizer explained, "The movement's purpose. We're not abandoning the Browns. We're demanding accountability, competent leadership, and respect for fans' intelligence. Playing an inferior quarterback while benching a generational talent represents organizational disrespect we won't tolerate." Another activist stated, "Our wallets speak louder than words. When attendance drops, merchandise sales decline, and viewership craters, ownership pays attention." Finally, national media coverage will intensify dramatically. Major sports networks are dedicating entire programming blocks analyzing the Browns' dysfunction. Podcasts are exploring the organizational failure from multiple angles. Written content is dissecting the decision-making decision-making processes, evaluating coaching competence, and questioning ownership interference. The Browns have become a cautionary tale, an organizational case study, a league-wide warning regarding the consequences when personnel decisions conflict with business realities. Former players are weighing in universally. Retired quarterbacks are questioning Stefanski's stubbornness. Legendary coaches are suggesting organizational intervention is necessary. Hall of Fame executives are recommending immediate changes. Their commentary carries weight, influences public perception, and pressures current leadership toward corrective action. One former Super Bowl winning coach stated during a television appearance, "Kevin's coaching himself out of a job. When you're losing games and losing viewers simultaneously, your runway disappears quickly. Don't assume a resolution emerges easily. Multiple scenarios exist, none representing ideal outcomes. Scenario 1. Stefanski relents, starts Sanders next week, and attempts salvaging the season amid irreparable damage. Scenario 2. Ownership intervenes, mandates a quarterback change, and undermines coaching authority permanently. Scenario 3. The Browns maintain the current course, accepting continued viewership decline, competitive struggles, and organizational dysfunction. Each path forward presents significant complications affecting the franchise trajectory for years. League observers suggest Cleveland's situation represents an inflection point for the modern NFL as an entertainment business prioritizing viewership engagement. How do leagues balance competitive autonomy against commercial imperatives? When individual franchise decisions impact collective revenue models, what intervention mechanisms exist? These questions lack easy answers, yet the Browns' dysfunction forces conversations addressing the fundamental tensions between football operations and business realities. Television networks are reportedly adjusting the Browns' future scheduling. According to sources familiar with broadcast planning, Cleveland faces potential relegation from primetime slots, marquee matchup considerations, and nationally televised games. Networks are protecting their investments, minimizing exposure to ratings disasters, and prioritizing matchups featuring reliable audience engagement. This represents an unprecedented consequence for the Browns, reducing visibility, diminishing recruiting advantages, and signaling organizational irrelevance. Ticket sales face predictable decline. Secondary market prices are dropping significantly. Corporate suite renewals are in question. Season ticket waiting lists are evaporating. Local businesses depending upon game day revenue are expressing concerns. Cleveland's economy is partially dependent upon the Browns' success, fan engagement, and competitive relevance. The organizational dysfunction affects the community beyond sports, impacting employment, tourism, and civic pride. The Shedeur Sanders benching transcends typical quarterback controversy toward a comprehensive organizational failure, affecting multiple stakeholders simultaneously. Fans are abandoning the franchise, viewership is collapsing catastrophically, sponsors are questioning investments, the league office is expressing concerns, network partners are demanding explanations, players are losing confidence, the coaching staff's authority is crumbling, and ownership is facing impossible decisions. Reality check. This disaster was entirely preventable. Play your best quarterback, maximize competitive advantage, generate fan excitement, maintain viewership engagement. Instead, Cleveland chose organizational stubbornness over common sense, competitive logic, and business realities. The consequences were predictable, yet somehow still shocking in their severity. The Browns entered this season expecting playoff contention, defensive dominance, and offensive innovation. Instead, they're discussing viewership craters, coaching hot seats, and organizational dysfunction, all because they won't play the quarterback everyone wants watching. This isn't merely unusual. This represents a catastrophic failure, requiring immediate intervention before the situation deteriorates further. Professional football demands more than talented rosters. Success requires organizational alignment, intelligent decision-making, and an understanding of business realities. The Cleveland Browns currently demonstrate the opposite: stubborn coaching, declining engagement, and a preventable disaster. The league watches another Browns season imploding predictably. Fans watch their patience exhausted. Finally, the only question remaining is how long before someone establishes organizational sanity.